Cool. Okay, we're live. Hey
Hey,
guys,
buddy.
I have with me Josh Fluke today. Josh is an interesting character here. I was made aware of you by a video that you did. How old is that video? Like a few months now?
Maybe a month and a half.
Maybe a month and a half. Okay.
Yeah.
I did originally did a case study, and a lot of people like my case studies because what I'll do is I'll take like a video and then I'll just sort of dissect it, I guess, from a sort of a red pill perspective. And I did that with Pat from Tech Lead, and I did it with him because it was pretty cut and dried. Excuse me, where what he was doing and what his situation was. Are you familiar with Pat from Tech Lead? I think you are, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And so I wanted to touch base with you and just sort of reach out, and I've been sort of lurking in your chat room for a little while just to sort of see what I was getting myself into. Um, I was just simply going to go do a regular just case study based on that one video, but I didn't know enough, and I didn't feel right just like not allowing you to like to say tell your side of the story and everything else. Um, so with all of that, that video, did you say something like to the effect that some of your viewers were suggesting my book? Is that how it happened, or was this while it was happening? Like,
Um,
because you're 29 now,
yeah.
and this happened when you were 23 years old.
Yeah, I got married when I was actually like 20, 21, and the marriage
Wow.
lasted about 4 years.
Hmm.
And um, towards the end of it, when things started going haywire,
Hmm.
start, looking for answers. Then I found the book, and if you watch the video, basically at the end, like she tries to kiss me on the lips, say goodbye, like
Hmm.
I'll always love you, and I like turn
Hmm.
my face away.
Hmm.
It's because I had already read the book at that
Right.
point. Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Okay. So I just want to sort of get some backstory here. Anybody who's interested, I did put the video in the description here, and then it's also in the chat right now. So if you want to go and you want to look at the actual video, it's just basically your story of, I guess, getting together with her, or was this mostly just the divorce itself, or like the relationship that you had while you were married? Now, there's one caveat that I think everybody needs to know, that all of this went down in Finland,
Yep.
right? And you're an American. You're from Georgia,
Yep.
right? Born and raised in Georgia. Whereabouts in
Yep.
Georgia?
Atlanta, Georgia,
Atlanta,
primarily.
Georgia. Wow.
Yep.
Okay. Um, and so why did you go to Finland? What was
Okay,
the
so
attraction?
I was in I was in college in the United States, and we were talking for a while, maybe like a year,
Mhm.
2 years before that, just like online, which is a joke. I would never do
Mhm.
that ever again. But
So you
um,
met her. Well, how did you meet her
we
online?
met on a pen pal website.
Oh.
Yeah, yeah, it
Hmm.
wasn't so many red flags. Um, yeah, we met on a pen pal website. We started talking, and then I I went to I went to go visit her
Mhm.
once. That was before we got married. I went to go visit her, and then I came back. And the first time I went to go visit her, we had been talking for a couple of years at that point. Took out student loans to buy a plane ticket and go.
Mhm.
And like literally like 2 weeks before I go, she's like, "Oh, I found a guy. Just letting you know." I'm like, "Okay," but it was kind of like implied that we were gonna be a thing. Like I didn't know what I was doing.
Mhm.
So I tried to refund the ticket. Didn't work. So I was like, you know what, life experience. I'll just go. And then me white knighting it, it was like, I'll win her over, and
Mhm.
it didn't. Yeah, I did, I guess, and I thought I was a
Mhm.
hero. But like, if she'll cheat for you, she'll cheat on you. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, so
Yeah. 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 So how old was she when you guys met? Like when you were, I guess when you met online, anyways.
uh, I was like,
You said you were 22,
yeah, it was like
21.
I was probably like 19 when we actually met.
Mm-hmm. So you had something that was going with her, like long before you even met her. Like how long were you guys having this like exchanges back and forth from
It's like 2 years before
2
I
years?
actually
Mm-hmm.
went to go see her, and then after that, we were trying to figure out how we were gonna be together. And I'm like a broke college student, and you have to
Mm-hmm.
pay a bunch of money to get a K1 visa to bring someone here.
Yeah.
And then you bring them here and they get married, and then they still have to go back and wait for their visa process. But if I
Mm-hmm.
go to Finland, I can stay there while the visa processes, and there's no like cost really. I just
Mm-hmm.
go and go to school, keep
Mm-hmm.
going.
Wow. And so you decided to go to Finland mainly because you wanted to facilitate this relationship with her, right?
Yep.
And so you got a degree there too, right? You got an engineering degree or electrical
Yeah,
engineering,
I have
some
a
sort of
mechanical engineering degree. I
mechanical
was
engineering. Oh, so you
yeah
got something out of it anyway.
yeah it was free.
Yeah.
Like I
Hmm.
have some student debt from the U.S., but
Hmm.
I yeah like that part was free, so
Hmm.
it was still
Wow.
cool. Yeah.
What is your just get some backstory here? Do you have any brothers or sisters?
I have a sister.
A sister?
She's like 2 years
Oh,
younger than me.
younger. Okay.
Yeah.
And your parents still together?
I somehow I don't really know.
Somehow? Yeah, I think
Somehow,
I saw that video too.
yeah, he lives
Yeah, I hear you.
here.
I hear
My
you.
mom's gone. Yeah.
Hmm. Wow. Okay. So you met her when you guys were when you're in high school, or I guess you would have been a senior, right? Or you would have been just out of high school when all this went down.
I was a freshman
Uh-huh.
in community college.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did you ever have any girlfriends besides this one, or like in high
Yeah.
school or anything like that?
Hmm.
You already had something going like here in the U.S., right?
Yeah, I've had a few girlfriends here, but for
Mm-hmm.
whatever reason, I was just like the one, you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So you bought into the soulmate myth then. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I know there's going to be people in the chat right now are going to be, they're going to hit you up and say like, oh, you're beta, you did this. I get that. I'm not. One of the things that I think a lot of guys mistake about my work is they think that if I call you a beta, or if I call you purple pill, if I say something like that, that they think that that's in some way like an insult or anything. That's not really my intent. I don't use those terms as like invectives. Those are just
Oh,
like
yeah.
sort of abstractions for me, just so that we can like move the conversation on a little bit further.
Oh, 100%. I
Yeah.
was
So
totally
just because if anybody starts coming down on you in the chat, don't worry about it. So yeah, I get it. I mean, a lot, and this was one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you, because your situation is very common, and it's not just. I mean, in the internet age, we can sort of facilitate things a little bit differently now, because you have like a I don't know, forum or whatever, a pen pal forum where you can sort of meet people out, and and find each other and have this sort of simulated long distance romance that you have. And again, I'm not like coming down. I'm not harshing on you for any of this kind of stuff, because I've known guys who back in like the early '90s did something very similar. A guy who used to be a good friend of mine, his name's Athol K. He was a guy he's the guy who started the Married Man Sex Life forums. And he had a very similar story to yours. I think he was in New Zealand, and he met some girl in the United States, and he decided to sort of facilitate his life around getting to her and starting something with her, simply because she was the one, right? So she had this. How do you like? How do you think you came to seeing her as like something more than just like the girlfriends like you would have had here in the United States? Was it like, I mean, did you have any? I
It
don't
was
want
probably like religious reasons, I would say.
to. Mm-hmm.
Like, I didn't really know. I hadn't talked to someone that long for 2 years, so I was like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, this one is different, it's special, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Okay. So as far as like your religious reasons, was she of this? Wait, did you meet her on like a religious forum? Was that what the
It
forum
was
was
Christian
about?
pen pals. That's what
Christian
it
Pale.
was. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So your religious background is what, evangelical Christianity, like Baptist or something? You're
Yeah.
from Atlanta, so I'm going to
Yeah.
guess here. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. The reason I'm asking is because right now, my fourth book, I'm writing a book about religion and the red pill.
Right.
So now I have another interest in you. So you start having this long distance thing going. You decide you want to go out there. What'd your parents say about that? What'd your dad say about that?
Um,
Did they want you to do it, or were they
they didn't
thinking
really
like,
care.
mm-hmm.
They were like, "What are you doing?" I guess, but they were kind of wrapped up in their own lives. Like my dad didn't like his job that he was working at the same time. My
Mm-hmm.
mom was unhappy. Like they didn't have a great marriage, so
Mm-hmm.
I just kind of disappeared, and they were just like, "Okay, see you later."
Hmm.
That's how it went down.
Wow. So sort of like a non-parent then. Like, oh, I mean, I guess once you get to a certain age, I think that there's certain parents that are just kind of like they're like you're on your own, kid, kind of thing. And wow,
Yeah.
okay. So you get there, you meet her. What was it like to finally like get in touch with her and like see her in person? And how did it go down? Did you said so you met her on a religious site. Was she like the same way as you, like religiously? Did she have the same beliefs as you? Did you
Um,
guys gel? Did you guys
at
actually
that point, yeah,
obviously enough to get married, right?
yeah. At that point, like she was religious and I was religious. I think like I'm not so much anymore, basically, but she still is.
Mhm.
And when I first got there, I was pretty frustrated because she had like found a guy, and I was gonna be the guy that was gonna come take her on a date, you know. But
Mhm.
then I was like, wait, I can win her over, which was really, you know, that's dumb. That's like chump
Mhm.
stuff. So um, it was the first few days were weird because I was just like, I'm staying in your house, but you have a boyfriend, but he refuses to put a label on you, and this is like
Mhm.
whatever. And then she wanted to like show me around the country and go to like parks and stuff, and then from there I was just like, I'm gonna win her over. And then one night we're just making out in her kitchen all of a sudden, you know, like.
Mhm. And so she just decided that you were the best option at that point, I guess.
Well, she kept saying like,
Mhm.
well, we don't have a label, so it's fine. I was like, okay,
Mhm.
you know, I didn't know what to think. I thought I was winning, but you know, it
Mhm.
was bad.
Mhm. And so how long were you there and how did that like, I mean, you went from that to getting married. So like what happened between there? Was there any like red flags, I guess, between that point and like, I mean, well, I don't know. I'm not really even sure what prompted you to ask her to marry her, but
So there was like another year and a half that went by when I came back. So after
mhm.
the first time I visited her, I came back and it was like a year. We were um, just chatting back and forth. She came to visit me for 2 weeks once for Christmas, met the family, and then we kept trying to figure out how we're gonna make this work. And marriage was like something that we like mentioned, like maybe one day. But then as we
Mhm.
like went through the legal options, it was like, okay, this is like basically the only way that we can actually be a thing.
Mhm.
And we've been talking about it anyway, so it's like
Mhm.
might as well just do that, which was like scary, but for it was exciting, I guess. But
Mhm.
I don't know. I didn't. It wasn't good.
Mhm. Was she like the hottest girl you'd ever been with? Was like she like
No,
the pinnacle? Was she
no,
like the top of the thing? So
no.
so like would you say that you did this because you had like a sense of duty to
Yeah,
like to stay to try to make it work? Like you felt like it was like sort of like an obligation on your part?
yeah. It was like I'm gonna come there. Like you work as a hairdresser. I'm gonna come there. I'm gonna go get that mechanical engineering degree. I'm gonna be the provider,
Mm-hmm.
paycheck. You know, I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
man of the house type deal.
Mm-hmm.
And that sounded really appetizing, I guess. But the reality of having to go through that was, yeah,
Was
not so
different.
appetizing.
Hmm. Okay, so you made it work out. You decided you were going to go out there and get the degree, the mechanical engineering degree in Finland. Um, how did you facilitate that? Did you just fly out there and you said you're just going to live with her and you guys got married? Did you get married in like some kind of ceremony or did you just have like sort of a civil
We
like?
did twice. So when I first
Mhm.
got there, you have, well, just when you just have a regular passport, you just have, I think you have 90 days you can be in the EU before you got to
Mhm.
come back.
Mhm.
So we went to a little courthouse. We got married. I had to go get I think it's an apostille piece of paper from a courthouse in
Mhm.
Georgia to take that to Finland and tell them like, hey, I have intent to get married here. And we went to the little courthouse and we got married. And then I was just kind of in this limbo phase where I couldn't work or do anything for like 2 months because they had to get the visa ready.
Mhm.
I had to take an entrance exam. I had to basically like restart college because they wouldn't accept anything from the U.S. to transfer over
Yeah.
until you take the entrance exam and get in, and then they'll consider it later.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And so when you finally did get married, you were living with her in her parents' place. Is that how it worked out? Or
No, she had an apartment. She was
Mhm.
living on her own. She was doing hair. She had her own little spot.
Oh, yeah. And how now she was way older than you too, right? That's the one part that I think we're missing here. How old was
Yeah.
she when you got married? So you were 23. How old was she when you got married?
28.
28. Okay.
Yeah.
So there is a good 5 years between you, maybe 6 years. What,
Yeah.
five?
Closer to
Yeah,
6.
closer to 6 years. So she was older than you. And she was living at home and still, while you guys were sort of having this online thing together, she was still living at home
No, she was on her own.
oh, she was on her own. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you were living basically in her apartment while you were going to school and all this was going down.
Pretty much. I mean, the part in the video that I didn't mention is that when you go to school as a Finnish resident, which is what I was considered, I wasn't a citizen, couldn't vote, but I got all the other rights. They give you 400 euros a month to me just for free, not like a loan. You don't got to pay back. They just give you that money. But I couldn't access it. She wouldn't show me how to access the banks to get in to manage the money or anything like that. And I tried to get a job, which I didn't say in the video, and she stopped me. I was like, hey, they're not hiring me because my Finnish isn't good enough. Can we just practice at home? Please don't speak English to me anymore. Just speak Finnish 100% of the time. And so that's what I would do. And she'd get frustrated and be like, oh, you're too stupid. I'm just going to speak English, you know? And I was like, okay, well, I think I'm better. I'm gonna fill out the application again and just look it over real quick for me. And she's like, no, you need to study. It's because I think she liked that kind of power. You know?
Yeah, she was older than you too, so there's something going on there. So that's really interesting to me, because so here she is, 28 years old. Here you are, 23 years old. She is entering what I would call the epiphany phase. I'm sure you probably read that part in one of my books there. So that's interesting to me, because that she would go and consider you. Do you think she was trying to use you to get into the United States, or you think she had some other motive to marry you and keep you around?
No, she never wanted to come to the U.S. After she came to visit a few times, she was like, no, this is too much. When we were married once, we came back for a summer, and she's like, I hate the culture shock. I never want to come back here. Wow. And she wasn't really interested in the citizen or the visa aspect of it. I think it's just, I'm not really sure.
You know why? Yeah. Well, maybe she thought you were like a boy toy for a little while.
I mean, maybe. She said some weird things, dude. Like what? What was she? She would constantly compare me to other boyfriends that she would have. We were in a movie theater line once, and she taps me. She's like, "Hey, I used to do that guy," and I was like, "Why are you telling me this? You know, it's kind of weird." But she would tell me size and all these details that why do I care? You know, why are you doing this? Are you doing this to prompt my emotions, or what do you want from me? Because I'm pretty even keeled, I think.
Right.
And hindsight, I should have just put my foot down and been like, hey, stop this crap. But
she probably would have got off on that too, actually. It sounds like she was looking. Okay, so from what I got from we're getting into the part right now where you were talking about some of this stuff in your video. What I got from a lot of the details anyways that you were saying, was that it seemed like she was looking for somebody who was a little bit more dominant. Maybe she thought you were going to be a certain way online. Do you think you were a certain way while you were talking to her long distance, as opposed to you actually having to live day to day with her?
Oh, 100%. I wasn't prepared for any of the culture shock. They don't do small talk. I was like, I'm going to start a blog. I'm going to start YouTube then, and I'm going to go explore every day, and I'm going to find places, and I'm going to take you and look at this. And I didn't do any of that because I didn't have any money. I know the language. They don't really want to talk to you in English. And, maybe it sounds like excuses, but it was a lot at once. And so I didn't do that. And I ended up just playing video games with my friends that were behind 8 hours. You know? So.
And so, and she got pissed off at you for playing video games too.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't all the time. There was a point where I was just really sad, I guess, really at a low point. And that's what I would do. I was like, I'm failing school. This doesn't matter. I have no, I don't know what I'm doing. Marriage is bad. I'm just going to play video games. That was the escape. There was a period of time, but it wasn't the whole time. Towards the end, I got everything together. It was gym every day, a few hours a day. And I'm not playing video games unless I literally have done everything I have to do, and maybe for 20 minutes, but yeah.
But that was enough to set her off.
Yeah.
Wow. Huh. Okay. So so what were some of the I want you to sort of go into some of the detail that you're talking about in your video here. What was like you were saying, like she had you like on an allowance. She wouldn't let you have money or anything like that. It was almost like you were sort of a kid living in this person's house. I mean, a
Yeah,
lot. That's what I got pretty much from that video.
that's how it was. Like,
Hmm.
she'd be like, "Okay, I put money in your account so that you can have lunch," and then occasionally she wouldn't, and I'd have to
Hmm.
ask, and I'd be like, "Hey, can I have the money that's in my name, anyways? Like, can you just show me so I'll manage it? Then you don't have to manage the finances. I know you don't like messing with the numbers. I'll do it. It's fine. Can you just help me?" No, I'll do it.
Hmm.
Okay. So it was I wouldn't even say it was an allowance. She just let me know ahead of time. Hey, I put lunch money, but you can only get the little meal today or something. It was
Hmm.
literal lunch money for school, and she would
Hmm.
tell me, okay, well, you only have this much, blah blah blah. Like it
Hmm.
was in terms of money spending, it was always like, hey, I want to buy this thing. She's like, we don't have money for that. I was like, okay, well, like I'll earn it. Just like help me get a job. Like I don't have issues working. It's fine.
Hmm.
No, you need to focus on studying.
Hmm. So it almost seems like she was looking for you to step up. She was looking for you to be more alpha, right?
Yeah.
And here's the thing that gets me is like when I see you do your videos, like you have a pretty popular channel, okay? And when I see you do what you do very well on YouTube and all this other stuff, like I see like a different side of you, man. Like the guy that you're like describing right now does not seem like the guy that I see on your videos. Like you're very social, you're very outgoing, you're very like I mean, it seemed like you're very on top of your game now. Is that a result of like this experience, or were you more like that? It's just like you got into this situation with a woman where you sort of like resigned yourself to the role that she wanted you to be in.
It was a result of the experience. 100%.
Mm-hmm.
Like you read your books, you start reading, the forums, subreddits, and all
Mm-hmm.
that stuff. And it was I was a chump. I just say it.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was 100% chump. Like JC Dent in the chat, just like
Mm-hmm.
he's like, this dude's a beta male. Like it's cool, dude.
Yeah.
100% I
Mm-hmm.
was. Like, am I
Mm-hmm.
now? No, I don't fucking married. No one's living here. Like, at least
Mm-hmm.
I would say that I don't
Yeah.
consider
I
myself.
was
Maybe there's
Yeah, don't worry. I'm going to give you a chance to redeem yourself right now. I know
sure.
it sounds like this is like really bad, and everybody's like, "Oh my god." Here's the thing: is one of the things that I run into when I'm trying to describe guys in your situation. Like people always wonder, well, why is Rollo wasting his time with this guy? Why is Rollo like describing this? Or I can't believe like guys who become red pill aware, guys who've read my book, whatever. They get to a point after like a couple of years where they're like, I can't believe anybody is like that. I can't believe this guy couldn't have seen all of these signs, right? Or he went and he lived like this. And I think that like sometimes really, particularly, and I don't know how far along you are with reading my books or and do you know anything about my work or the Manosphere or Red Pill or whatever, but like there's a point where we kind of have to remind ourselves what we used to be like so that we can sort of help other guys out. That's one of the reasons I want to reach out to you instead of like just doing what I did with like Pat from Tech Lead is I think we need to like put ourselves in the understanding of what it was like to still be blue pill and still be kind of beta and still be kind of lost in that. And so I'll talk to guys who are like really like last week I had an interview with Andrew Tate, and very very alpha guy, has his shit together, really, he is who he is, right? But like if I'm going to talk to him about like you, it would be like he wouldn't know why I would be talking to you, or like why I would like want to spend the time to sort of like unravel all this stuff that you're relating to me right here. And the reason I'm doing that is because I don't want people to think like, if I call you a beta, if I talk about you being a beta, like you just said right now, I was a beta, I was a chump. That's good because at least then you have some awareness of where you're at right now and what you were like before and how you got in. Like it's very important to understand how you got into those situations so you can avoid them in the future, which it sounds like you have where you're at right now. So all of this is going on when you're 23 years old. So you're living with her day to day, and this is the what. Was there anything else? I feel like I'm missing something else from the video. Like what else she pulled on you? But like at this time, was she trying to like? This is really weird to me because I have to sort of process that you guys were both in sort of this religious thing too. Like was she really sincerely religious in her convictions with all of this, or was
No.
that sort of pushed to the side because her, like, I guess, sexual imperatives with you, or like, having a relationship? It seemed like all of that was just convenient to sort of facilitate something with you.
It was a lot of cherry picking, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like covered in tattoos, like
Mm-hmm.
I would just say like cherry picking. So like I wouldn't say that had too much to do with it. It was kind of just she was religious when it was convenient, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
is what I would say. But she pulled a lot. There's a lot of like gaslighting, lots of gaslighting. No matter what I did, it was always my fault. The occasional reward, to keep you in the feedback loop.
Mm-hmm.
And she like would, plant candies around the house, and she'd plant them next to like the birth control, like the condoms and stuff. And if like she would know if I took it. She would know if I took it, and then she would be like, "Well, why did you need to go there if I wasn't here? Like why are you getting condoms? I'm not here, or something, whatever." And if I don't take it and I take all the other ones, she knows I found it, and then she's gonna like laugh it off.
Right. So I remember that she played those games with you, like so. Yep. So she would put she wanted to like instigate or see. This is interesting because this is the part of your story where I think something in her hindbrain kind of said, I got to get out of this. And so she was trying to find ways, and correct me if I'm wrong, but she was trying to find ways to split up with you, to make you look like you were the bad guy.
Yeah, that's exactly what I would say. 100%. Like she was, to this day, the only explanation I've ever gotten was we're different people. But I started to realize that like she's doing these things because she needs a reason to tell her friends and family that I've done something. So she has a legitimate reason besides like, because everyone else is just going to be like, well, go to marriage counseling for whatever other reason that she would give, So she needed to find something like infidelity or something like major to tell her friends and family that I'm like a bad guy. And I started to realize this. I was like, okay, fine. You want to play the game? That's fine. But I have like a year of school left. I'm not going to take the bait. Because I have to get this degree. Because if you kick me out and I don't get the degree and I'm like 98% of a degree, that's not going to transfer back to the United States. I'm going to have to start over again, or at least where I left off. And I don't remember any of that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, wow. Okay. So she started playing these games because what I think happens, and this is, I'm glad we were talking about this too, because it was at this point when I was watching your video where I realized that is most likely she was very much a BPD. Do you know what BPD is? Yeah. Borderline personality disorder.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like she showed a lot of signs of a classic BPD. Now, the fact that she was a little bit older than you kind of weirds me out a little bit. And the fact that she was in her epiphany phase sort of throws me off a touch, because usually women in their epiphany phase are looking for guys who are older than they are. So I'm wondering if she was just doing this because she got into a bad situation and she was looking for convenient ways to get out. My other question for you is this: is like you, as far as the religious side of things, did you like go to church together while you guys were in Finland and you guys were married and all that? You said you also had a religious ceremony after the.
Yeah, we had like a typical like regular just church ceremony, except her side was like friends and family, and my side was just empty. It was just like me at the altar, just because no one came. And I would say like her parents were probably really religious. They went to church like every Sunday, Monday, Wednesday, small groups, whatever. We didn't really, because I don't really want to go, and that was like a big upset. But I was like, I have to focus on this test. I have the school stuff. Like, this is cool. We could focus on this, but it was way more important to her than it was to me.
How many years did this go on? Like, how many years were you guys married?
5.
5 years. Wow. So you're 28, and that's when you guys got divorced, or when you decided to call it off?
I got married when I was like 20 or 21, and then towards the end of when I was almost 25.
25. Okay. God,
yeah. Now I'm 29.
Wow. And so this was like 4 years of this stuff then.
Yeah, it was a lot.
Yeah. See, that's another reason why I wanted to talk to you, because I did something very similar when I was between the ages of like 23 and 26, 27, somewhere in there. That's when I was with my own BPD experience at that time. And a lot of what you are talking about here, her behaviors and all that, really coincide, I think, with my BPD as well. So that's why just so you know, that's why I wanted to talk to you personally here. Um, so how did it end? What was like the end, like when you decided, I'm out of here? I think you said something to the effect that you had to, uh, it was either do or die, right? You did were you at college for 4 years learning all this stuff, or?
No, because I failed the entrance exam, so I had to wait like 8 months, and then they give you the result, and then they told me I got in, and so there was like this whole time where I'm not in school and I can't work because I don't know Finnish well enough yet, and so that was like, she provided for everything, and we were just trying to figure out what I was going to do if I didn't get accepted, which is like go to these little community Finnish classes, then you go bag groceries, I guess. I mean, and that was terrible because she had to work, and there was not much I could do. Just be a stay-at-home husband, I guess. Clean the house and make food and stuff. Try to do what I can. Yeah. It was bad, like she probably thought I was like her kid, and that's not what I wanted. I didn't want that experience at all. But like, no one would hire me. Like, I was thinking of all these things I could do. I was like, all right, how can I make money in the U.S. and transfer it to myself here in Finland? That way, I pay for stuff. She doesn't feel like a mom, But like towards the end, to your question, I had like 6 months left, and one day I was on the computer writing up my final project, and she like slammed down a piece of paper that said like, "Hey, sign this." And I was like, "What is this?" And what I didn't say in the video, which I remember now, is I started finding books with the word eroa on it, which is like to divorce in Finnish, but I didn't know what that word was. I just saw all these books with that word on it, like in her like little tote bags around the house. And I was like, "What is this?" So I started Googling it. And I was like, divorce. And then you find like, what God thinks of divorce, and like all these other how to divorce and international divorce. And I was like, wait, what is going on here? So I didn't say anything to her because she thought I was too dumb to read it, basically. But I started talking to my friends about it, and they're like, yeah, this is definitely like she's planning something. So she came up, she put a piece of paper on the desk and was like, "Hey, sign this." And I was like, "What is this?" But I knew what it was. I just wanted to hear her say it. She's like, "We're just different people." And I was like, "I'm not signing this. Get this out of my face." I'm like, I signed up to be a husband. We'll figure it out. We'll work it out. I didn't want to go to like marriage counseling because like
last stop before toll.
Yeah. And so I was like, we'll figure it out. And I was like, you know what? Fine, I'll sign it. But I was really scared because I had 6 months left of a visa and 6 months left of school. So as soon as I signed it, I was like, okay, now I'm going to get divorced. Now I have to graduate, and I don't have a job lined up. So that's a few big things here, and I don't know how I'm going to handle that. So I had like a breakdown. I was like crying, and I just like put it off the table because I was like, what is this? Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So, and then at that point, she just says, "This is going to happen." And like you were saying, I think at the end of that video, you were saying that you didn't know whether or not you guys were even still married right now because it was never like official at the end.
No, so she came back like 3 weeks left, and she came back to me and she said, I lost the paper. I never filed it. And I was like, what? So I re-signed another one, and I graduated, had a job lined up here in Utah where I live. And then I came back, and like, I don't know, it was like 2 weeks later, she hits me. She's like, "Hey, I need 300 euros to finalize this divorce." I was like, I haven't got paid yet. Haven't had my first paycheck yet. I don't even start work till next week. She's like, "Okay, fine." That was the last time I talked to her. So I've never seen the divorce papers, but like, we never wanted kids, so that was a good thing, right? Didn't have kids. Yeah. She can't get really like alimony. That's not really a thing. I didn't have anything for her to take. I had like an old computer. But I think even now, if she wanted to come to the U.S., I'd have to sign off on that as like a supporter while her visa processes, which is not going to happen. So I'm only legally married there. Here in the U.S., like, I file single. I wasn't sure if I was married. I wasn't sure. So when I first got my first paychecks at my first job, when I was doing the W-2 and I was filing my taxes the first time, I tried to file married because I figured, I was like, well, maybe it hasn't gone through. And then it started asking all the questions like her like TIN number, I guess, or her social security. I'm like, well, she doesn't have either of these because we never went through that process. So I have to file single. So that's what I am. And that's what they recognize me as. So,
so I got this guy's here. He's saying that she was a BPD cougar with a mommy syndrome. She had a clinical need to manipulate and control you above and beyond normal woman behavior. It's funny. It's like whenever I talk about BPD, a lot of guys don't believe that there is such a thing as BPD because a lot of the behaviors that women manifest, like today, because of entitlement, because of just empowerment and everything, that those behaviors are just simple, normal, natural female behaviors if you don't keep them under control, if you don't have some sort of I guess control over that. But like I disagree with that. I've read enough about borderline personality disorder to know the signs now, and I've lived through that. Did she like when you guys were together, did she have any other boyfriends, or was she like trying to like get with other guys while you guys were together?
I don't think, at least I wasn't aware of it. There was one weird time where she's like, I'm gonna go see my friend that I used to date like way back, and this is like our marriage is already like complete trash at this point. Like we're on the rocks 100%. And she came back at 3 a.m. and she smelled like cigars and wine, and she's like, don't worry, we were just on the balcony and that's what I smell like. And I was just like, don't touch me. And that was, yeah. I mean, so that's really like one of the only times that I'm like aware of her going to meet another guy. But other than that, I never like, she didn't have like Tinder on her phone or anything. There wasn't any signs like that, but she tried to catch me cheating. I went on a date with a Norwegian girl when I was in high school, and she was like, because they're bordering countries at the north, she was like, hey, how's the marriage going? How's Finland? How are you enjoying the culture of Scandinavia and Northern Europe? And I was like, it's cool. Finnish people are cool, but I mean, we're probably going to get divorced. And that was like, I don't know, a year before we actually got divorced. And she saw that message, I don't know, 6 months after that happened. And I don't know if you remember this part in the video, but I walked in from school one day and my PC monitor was off and my computer was off. And I usually leave them, or they were both on, my bad. Yeah, they were both on. And there was a little note card like tucked in like the bottom of the monitor. And it's like, go be with that Norwegian, profanity, lots of profanity. And I don't care. And she was like laying on the bed behind my computer, just crying. I think it was fake crying. Like it was, she just put on a show. It was pretty good. And then I was like, so you went through my computer. It's the first thing I said. I was like, you went through my computer. She's like, no, I just moved the mouse and it came on. I was like, no, I keep my computer off. And she's like, well, okay, I turned it on. And then I went to look up something and your Facebook came up. And I was like, nope, didn't have any browsers open. And that's not how it works. Well, okay, so I tried to log into mine and it logged into yours. And I was like, nope, my password's not saved. And you would have to like go searching for these messages, And she's like, okay, fine. I went through and I found the messages and I just wasn't sure what was happening between you and her because of us and blah, blah, blah. And then she started laughing. She went from crying to laughing in the span of 5 minutes of me like calling out her BS.
Wow.
And
that was BPD right there.
It was very interesting. Like she was like literally trying to make me feel like I had cheated when I was like, no. You just went through all of my stuff without reason and lied about it. You gave me the old trickle truth, And then she was laughing and she's like, it's fine. I just didn't know. Let's just, and then she tries to reward you with, Yeah. And so I was like, no.
Well, no. Okay. Wow. Yes. To me, that is classic BPD right there, to like sort of go from hot to cold. I think really at that point, she was trying to find some like tricky way to at least put you on the spot to make it seem as if you were the problem. So she would feel more justified in the divorce that she was probably already planning. Most women will plan a divorce or plan a breakup long before a guy's even aware of it. Like you said, you started to see these books around the house and she thought you were too stupid to like figure out like what the Finnish word for divorce was.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Okay. So now towards the end of this, when you'd signed the paper and everything and you'd finally finished with college and you're just about to get out, what was the relationship like at the end when you could sort of see the end is near? And like, did she say something like she decided to sort of do a 180 and suddenly she's, I'm going to miss you, or now that you're leaving, this is more real for her. So she.
It was only on the final day, only on the actual day
Oh,
where I
on the
got on
actual
the
day. Mm-hmm.
airplane.
Now you had already now you had read my book by this point.
Yeah. Okay. No, I read like all 5,000 posts on the subreddit, the book. Like I was, that's what first thing I'd wake up, sit on the bus to school, and just read that every day, just to figure out how to come home and deal with myself, how to be better, how to not be such a chump anymore. That's why I started lifting. That's why, get in shape. I was like, I'm going to be back on the market. I don't want to date this. Like, no one else is going to want to touch this. So I've got to get in shape. I'm going to at least have a decent job lined up, making some decent money for my age. So I did like a 180. And it wasn't like, I started showcasing that in the relationship, and like she tried to get it on once, and I denied her. I was like, no, please don't touch me.
How did that work?
You can, we all know how that went down, like lose her mind. You're rejecting me? You've never rejected me ever in your life. And I was like, no, it's fine. I don't want this starfish. I'm good. Thanks. It was, I think it was like, maybe it was like too little, too late, but even then I didn't want that anymore. I was like, I'm over this. I got stuff lined up. And so she realized that once. I was like, no, this is done. This is fine. I don't want to go to counseling anymore. I don't want to do this. Like, it's fun. I signed the papers, whatever, we're done. Like, we'll still like go drive me to the airport. I'll say goodbye to your family and I'll leave. And that's it. But, like, she would insult my future prospects. That's what she did. Once I really? Firmly established, I was like, we're done.
Like, you're never going to do as good as me. Is that what that was?
Yeah. She's like, you have a finished degree. It's not going to be worth anything. You're going to, you're going to have to work at Walmart. You might have to work at Waffle House. Like, nothing against those jobs. This job's a job. But like, she said those words directly. Really? I remember it was, she just insult anything that I ever had lined up. She's like,
wow, she's still concerned with, like, that's interesting. That's that. In fact, that's, I think, one of the more fascinating parts of this whole story is, like, here you have this woman who has pretty much berated you for most of the time you guys have been married. She thinks you're too stupid to learn Finnish. All of this, and yet at the end, she's more worried about you becoming successful, or she's trying to discourage you from thinking that you could be anything more than what you were with her. That's fascinating, because what that kind of says to me is, like, from a woman's hypergamous nature, there is that doubt. And I've said this on a million different shows before, is that hypergamy is based on doubt. It's based on one question, and it's, is he the best that I can do? And it sounds to me she's sort of trying to, like, justify this in her head, like, okay, he's leaving, but he'll never be anything, so this is a good thing. But yet there's still that doubt, like, ooh, he actually might do something. He actually might be the guy that I wanted him to be before, but now he's done with me, and I'm not good enough for him, and so he's gonna. And of course, it did work out that way for you as well. But to me, what that says is that's sort of that. It's almost like soft dread. It's almost like she's, like, thinking, is he actually somebody that I should be staying with? And that's, so at the end, what did she do at the end? Like, when you're getting on the plane, she tried to kiss you?
She tried to kiss me on the lips. And I was just like, nope, please don't touch me. Bye. Thanks. That was it. And then I went up the little escalator, and I looked down in the glass, and she was just, like, bawling, just having, like, a total complete breakdown. I was just like, who's this girl over here? Like, I was so free for the first time. I went to go talk to, like, every single girl I could find at the airport. I was like, yo, what's up? Like, she tried to prompt me to,
to drag you back into the madness. Yeah.
Well,
wow.
Like, towards the end, when I was, like, kind of showcasing, like, this is fine, whatever, I'm done. I'm just focusing on me right now. We've already been through the emotions. I'm just over it. She would, like, prompt me. She's like, it's fine. Even though we're still married, you can just, download Tinder. It's fine. I was like, no, not giving you a reason. Not going to happen. It's a fine. Just, just be safe. Just make sure to wrap it up. No, I'm good. I'm just going to finish school and bounce. Like, she really needed a reason, I guess, to tell people. Because, like I said, like, to this day, all she said was, we're different people.
Mhm.
That's all I got.
And you haven't talked to her since then. It's like complete. She's just erased. She just deleted her from your life.
Yeah, she asked for a couple €100 to finalize the divorce, even though I don't know if that's legit or not.
Mhm.
Maybe she felt owed or something, but that was it. After I said no, she's like, fine, and then a bunch of profanity.
Oh, wow. Wow. So that's fascinating. That last part there is even when a woman is BPD, like what I see when I don't think I've ever actually had an actual episode about BPD, but when I talk about BPD, I look at it as if the woman is sort of like a parasite, and that parasite has to have a host, and that it's not like a symbiotic like parasite thing where it's like one benefits the other. It's just sort of this host that she has to sort of cling on to for her like emotional needs and to just sort of feel better about herself. It seems to me like she was like, did she have a like what was her family like? Was her family kind of messed up or
her dad actually I never really thought about it till now, but her dad was blind and her mom was like a caretaker for him, and there was a lot of moments where like you could see him wanting to do things like be like the man in the house but he couldn't because he was blind. And her mom was nice, but there was a few times where I could see like similarities. She would lock herself in rooms and start crying and throwing fits like actual toddlers do. And I would like look at her mom and be like, you want to go talk to her? I don't know what I did again, but and she's like, no, she's fine. She'll come back out when she's done. And like, it's like it never happened. But her mom was nice to me. Her mom like helped me out with money when she wouldn't give me money. But at the same time, I could see the relationship of like they didn't know how to handle their emotions. It was just like get mad, scream, yell, call someone a bunch of names, and then act like it never happened because you're done.
Well, yeah. Conk here says, Josh, did she ever self-harm or self-sabotage for attention?
I would no self-harm really, but one day she had pretty like long hair, I mean, like she's cute, but one day she came in, she like shaved her head off, colored her hair purple. She's like, don't I look hot?
Wow.
And like, what do you say when you're married, like you just came in one day, colored your hair purple and shaved it off. I guess if this is what you like, that's what I said or something like that.
Wow.
I don't know if that's like self-sabotage, but she didn't like.
It sounds like it sounds like self-sabotage. It sounds like she's trying to get a rise out of you for that. Wow. So she's very much a piece of work. from what I can gather, she was very much a piece of work. I think see, this is why I wanted to talk with you, because like when I was doing the breakdown of Pat from Tech Lead, I could sort of get an idea of what his whole situation was like, because he was with a Japanese woman, and he had this traditional family where another culture that doesn't really process their emotions very much. And so one day he just finds like his wife has taken their son and gone back to Japan, and now suddenly he's divorced. And it's just like, it was a shock to his system, but I think he probably knew it was coming. But that's fascinating. So as far as your situation now, like you're here in Utah, you got a job, it seems like things have changed for you a little bit. Like now you're 29, I guess how long have you been working this job?
Okay, so I moved here. I worked as a mechanical engineer, corporate cringe. It was like not my cup of tea. So I learned how to code and got a bunch of code jobs, but the code jobs never held up because I worked at startups. And then I got my last code job and did YouTube on the side until I quit my code job. And now I just do YouTube and my own website and stuff. So.
And so that's what's been paying the bills, I guess. So you got your one apart. Are you dating again? Are you out doing things, or are you just?
I had a girlfriend when I first got here. I had a girlfriend for a while, like a few years, pretty decent. And then she cheated. Well, I can't say that she cheated, but she flew across the country to go meet a guy on spring break. And then I found the plane ticket, and it wasn't to Florida where she said she was going. And so then that ended like, I don't know, was that like 7 months ago, I guess. but she moved out. Like, she moved in with me, not like for a while, which like that's never happening again. You know, like I thought I was doing okay. I was like, never get married again. I'm good, you know, like, and then like there's a girl living with me, you know, like it's just, but am I dating right now? Like, I guess so. It's just, it's hard. Some girls, I've had some girls ask if they can come on the live stream. I've had some girls have asked if I'll shout out their Instagram. It's very nutty.
They're still looking for that plug from you, huh?
Yeah, it's weird. It's just once they realize I do YouTube for a living and I don't live in my mom's basement and like I own a house and I have it together, you know, then they're like, oh, how are you? No. Okay. Whatever. Like that's how you want to be. That's fine. You're cute. Let's go on a couple of days, but this other girl's cute too, you know? At least that's how I do it now.
Wow. So how has this experience sort of like put you in a different frame of mind when you're like meeting new girls, or when you're like, I guess you had that girlfriend before, like I think you're a really interesting case study here, because you actually have been reading my book. You've gone through sort of a really bad situation. You've come out, at least from what I can tell, on top. I think it's really fascinating that your ex-wife now, was still sort of doubting whether or not you were a good long-term investment that she thought you were going to be. But since then, since you've read my book, since you've had all this experience, has it like sort of have you changed? Like, have you changed into somebody that like you could see the way that you were before and like who you are right now?
Oh my God. I would go back in time, just, you know, slap the crap out of myself. It's, and then I thought I was doing good, and I was like, okay, well, step one, you know, I'll never get married again. And then I mess up, I get a girlfriend, and she moves in with me, you know, like, oh, what have I done? And then you realize what has happened, and then she's like, let's get married. No, I'm not get married again. Like, I can look back and see all the mistakes that I made, and now I just fly solo, and that's how I do it.
And you're in Salt Lake City too, so that must be a real interesting sexual marketplace there for you.
Oh my dude, don't. It's not fun. Yeah, it's not fun.
Yeah. So, and I take it you're not Mormon.
No, I'm not.
No,
I'm not
so, yeah. Wow. So that's yeah. And then I take it they don't party too much there in Salt Lake City either.
Yeah, they only have
I've actually done work in Provo, Utah before. I never did any long-term work in Salt Lake, but I have done work in Provo, and that is like a real tough gig in my line of work, which is wine and spirits.
Because well, if you're in that, then you know there's only like state liquor stores here, and like you can only get 2% or 3% beer from the store, unless if you want the real beer, you have to go to that. Like I've found that like there's a huge like divide in Utah. You're either really devout or you're kind of like on the party side, and finding moderate people doesn't really happen too often. But it's just like a lot of weird things. Like, I don't know when the last time you were here, but if you go to a restaurant like Applebee's, which has a bar inside of it, they have this like college ruled white piece of paper, like stuck against the door that goes in that says, this is a restaurant, not a bar, and just big black letters. It looks so, you know, like it's doesn't look professional or anything, but it's required by the state. And then if you go to the bar, it says this is a bar, not a restaurant. Oh, also you have to order food before they'll give you any alcohol.
Any kind of alcohol. Yeah. I know. Utah is one of the worst control states in the union. Gosh, I think Arkansas is another one of those places where you're gonna have to like sign in, so they know like if you're going into a bar, you have to put your name on like sort of this ledger kind of thing, so they know that you're sitting there and you're not gonna, you know, like they're worried, I think, more about like lawsuits against the bar. So like if you go, and Tennessee's this way too, like if you go and you buy liquor and you drink it and you get a DUI, they don't want you to sue the bar or the place that sold you the liquor. that put you in that state so that you got into that. That's why they do all that kind of stuff. It's weird. Like gosh, I could probably do a whole show on just on like compliance laws for alcohol, will blow people away. So anyways, so what's now? What's next for you? You're in the gym. You said something to the effect that you went and you kind of blew up a little bit when you were married, and then now you've sort of trimmed down a little bit. Like
dude, I was a planet. Like I was huge. I was like 242. I was pretty big. I did the body fat test. That's somewhere like 35% body fat. Slimmed down a bunch. Went to the gym a lot. Now the gym, it's just like brushing your teeth. You don't really think about it. You just do it. That's. I think I'm doing okay. But the chat is chat is mean, but
brutal.
It's okay. I'm used to chat. It's
welcome
fine.
to my chat world here.
That's all good. I get it too.
Yeah. So do you think, do you want to get into another relationship? Like you're getting close to, like, if you read my book, if you read my second book, you already know what I'm going to tell you is like your sexual market value peak years are going to end up being probably your mid 30s right now. And it looks like you're headed, you've got some skills, you've got a degree. You can, if you weren't doing YouTube, I'm sure you'd probably be doing something else, maybe not in Utah. But like, what do you have planned? Do you have plans? Do you have something that you're working for right now? Like what are your goals now that you're sort of free and clear from this? Because a lot of guys will get into these really bad situations and it kind of consumes their lives. And so once they get out of it, or if they get zeroed out as a result of that experience, they don't have anything to do once they're out of that. Like, do you have any plans? Do you have anything?
Yeah, I mean,
goals,
it's just like,
I guess
most of it, I wouldn't say it's like chasing money, but it's just like growing what I do, getting better at what I do. Because I do YouTube ad revenue, but I'm not trying to like plug or anything, but like I have the website and affiliates and other stuff, and just grow those things. And so that I can be, I want to say like passive income, but like it's passive, never really passive, but just growing those things. So I don't have to, I guess it's just financial stuff, like not having to think about where my mortgage payment is going to come from because I own a whole apartment complex or something. There's like mainly business and financial goals, but I date around, but nothing is like, it's always like, there's no us. This is not like, there's never going to be an us. This is like, we can have some fun. Like you're nice. Like I compliment you, you compliment me, but I'm gonna do my own thing at the end of the day. Like if it's you or my own thing, I'm doing my own thing.
So you're finally, it sounds to me like you're finally making yourself your own mental point of origin. Like maybe before, when you were younger, did you feel like, I didn't know if I asked you this or not, like when you were younger, did you feel like it was like your duty to get married? Like you said she was like, you were talking about one-itis. You're saying like maybe she was your soulmate or whatever, and you had to fly across. Clearly you went and flew across the country for all of that. Do you think you were making her like your primary focus in life? Was she
Yeah, she was the origin, like not me. I've used that quote in like others of my videos. There's a few where I'm like, you have to make yourself your own mental point of origin, like word for word, because that's what I do. It's always about what I'm going to do and how I'm going to grow. It's like I see some people in the chat, they're like, you need other stuff, so I just financial, but like I do have like personal goals, like fitness goals and stuff like that, like meeting people that I've always wanted to talk to, like you. Like I didn't think that you would ever be like, hey Josh, I just keep it on the down low. Yeah, I keep it on the down low, that because of what I do, I don't talk about it too much. Like if you go look at the comments of the video, I'm just like, I wish I could just respond to all of these, but it wouldn't have any context to them.
Yeah, I think a lot of these guys are, I get it, but there was one here just a minute ago or saying, it takes a lot of balls to come up and like admit this and tell this story. It's tough, man. It's tough to say, yeah, I was pretty much at her beck and call. Shit, man. Like when people ask me, like they'll say, like, well, Rolo, you do, I've been married for 23 years. I've got a daughter. I've got what I think most guys would consider an ideal marriage. But like, so people will think, well, that's just how you are. That's where you're at. You don't know what we're going through, whatever. It's like, no, man, it's like, I have been exactly where you are right now. And during the same time in my life as well. I'd gone from being a very sort of beta blue pill high school kid to being in my LA rock band era. I was very much an alpha during that time. And then I met my BPD girlfriend, and I went from being sort of this happy-go-lucky alpha guy who was happy to, I got most of my 40 notch counts during those years. And then I don't think people really understand how you can go from that to becoming something else, to becoming like something as low as like where you were or where I was during those years, because you still cling to those basic understanding, or like the things that you were taught as a child, the understanding that you should make other people your priority, or you should, especially in a religious sense, that you should like live to serve, you know, like it's your duty to think of others before you think of yourself. I'm sure you probably heard that a million times in church. That's tough, especially for guys, because guys will say, well, if I reduce myself to a certain point, then I will get it back, right? It'll be reciprocated back to me. So if I do what I'm supposed to do, then I will succeed, or I'll be rewarded as a result of this. And it takes like living to really, you know, understand that that's not always the case. Like you need to make yourself your mental point of origin. And that's hard, particularly in a religious respect. But people don't get that. Like they don't get that you have to sort of remake yourself at many different stages of your life. And it sounds to me like you're remaking yourself as well. I got, let's see, I got a thing that says, Josh, will you bring more red pill to your own YouTube channel?
It's hard to do that.
Yeah,
in the world of monetization when it pays your mortgage.
Maybe I should rephrase that. Would you like all of your videos to be yellow?
Yeah. So like I kind of like my mortgage. So I gotta pay that. Like, of course, like I'll talk about, we all have opinions, right? We all have opinions, but just because you have them doesn't mean you can express them. Like YouTube is not, that's their platform. It's not free speech. You can't just say what you want. They're going to do what they want. So
and they're changing it up now too.
Yeah. So you got to play by the rules if you have a mortgage that YouTube pays. So that's, I say things without saying them. If you have to kind of like read between the lines, but what you were saying just a second ago, like what popped in my head was my advice that my family gave me when I left to Finland was they like held me on the shoulders. Like they were like, Josh, happy wife, happy life. And I remember thinking, I was kind of like, wait, wow, what about me though? You know, like, but I just kind of like, okay, all right, got it. And then, you know, these days they still say that. I'm like, no. What about me? What about me? Like I have a life too, you know? And that was like ingrained, I guess, if you look around my family, it's they're like that, you know, you can see they go to the mall and, you know.
That's really tough. I need to either write an essay about this, or I've really got to do an episode about this. When you become red pill aware, it changes everything, and not just how you're dealing with your intersexual relationships, but how you view your family. And that's actually what I was going to ask you next is, so now that you've read my books, you've gone through this situation, I think, and just to sort of put a period on the end of that last topic, when you were finally leaving that relationship and you were starting to think about yourself and you're starting to make yourself you were your primary focus suddenly, what changed, right? I mean, that's when she started thinking, she had that doubt. That's when she starts crying. That's when she's trying to find ways to sort of like, I guess, deal with the doubt that like maybe you are actually going to succeed. And so to settle that in her own brain, she's got to sort of tear you down. She's got to say, well, you know, you're never going to be anything without me. You know, you think you're going to be, you have a finished degree, right? You don't, you know, it's trying to find ways to disqualify you. But the only reason any woman would ever try to disqualify you like that is because there is that doubt. She had some doubt, and most likely that doubt was inspired by the fact that you had finally accomplished something. You got a job in the US, you were done with her, you're done with the bullshit, and now you're starting to think about yourself and where you wanted to go. And now that's what triggered that. So that's that side of it. My other question is this, is like, how do you see your family differently after this experience, but also after having read my books and becoming a little bit more red pill aware? Do you understand the dynamics in your own family better now?
I watch it all the time. The aunts, uncles, like grandparents and stuff, you know, like you want to help, but they're excuse-topia, you know. I'm like, well, just read this, just read the book. It's all good, you know, like you can lead the horse, you know, but
Yeah.
that's how it's been, you know. And then the people automatically think that you're like, you know, anti women, anti everything. You're like, no, man, like it's just, you know, just be a better you. That's all I want, you know. Just think about you for once. But people, you know, they just jump to conclusions, I guess.
Do you think your dad was beta?
Yeah.
Very much so. Yeah.
Yeah,
I saw that one. I was gonna say I saw. Oh, really? I didn't know that. I saw that one video where you were talking about your parents. I don't want to dig too deep in that, but like it sounds to me like you have figured that out.
Yeah, I mean, like not all the time. Like when I was younger, it was like he did everything. Like he kept the finances. Like it was all his thing. My mom just kind of like coasted along. She was just there for the ride, you know. And he did everything. And then like he lost his job, and now he's like struggling. And all of a sudden, my mom's like, "You're the man of the house. You need to go work." And my dad's like, "Okay, well, we don't have any money, and all I can find are these menial jobs. So you need to work right now too." And for whatever reason, my mom's suddenly just like, "What? I actually have to do something?" I don't have a very good like relationship on that side of things. But like I'm pretty blunt with my dad, and he kind of laughs at it when I say him, but like it's I'm pretty sure it won't last much longer. I think him hanging out with me almost every day now is kind of like I enjoy doing my own thing, you know. And then he goes home at night and he'll like text my mom and stuff, and then he'll call me and he'll be all mad and be like, "Listen to what she said." I'm like, "Why are you even picking up the phone, dude?" You know, just it's weird to give your parents advice on relationships when your parents have been giving you that your whole life.
That was my next question. Did your dad, other than like the time he said "happy wife, happy life," did he ever like give you any kind of advice or try to like I guess steer you in the right direction with respect to your relationships? Did he ever say like girls are like this, right?
No, he never really cared. That wasn't from him. Like he didn't say that. That was like my uncle who said that, and my grandpa, and like other people. He never said anything. He was like, from what I know, he was pretty much a player basically, like until he got married with my mom, and then even then he was making all the money. My mom was along for the ride, so my mom just got to like cruise basically. And then when that hit the fan, and that was no longer the case, all of a sudden they go from being happy for 20 years to not anymore. And but like in the meantime, like, you know, I was like hooking up with chicks, I guess, throughout high school and stuff, and there were scenarios where I thought he was going to get mad at me for like catching me, you know, but he didn't. He was pretty chill about it. He didn't really care what I did in terms of that. He was just like, you know, you do you, Josh. Just you know, like, is she cute? That's what she would say. Like, what's she look like though? You know, just kind of like a bro. But like over time, when that like he doesn't have like control of his life anymore, he's a lot more like questions himself more because he doesn't have that like financial like security that he's always had. So like everything is like, I'm not sure anymore. It's strange.
I think you mentioned in that other video that he lost his job or something, and that he was like borrowing money from you.
Borrowing would
put it
lightly.
Okay, yeah, let's just say he was liberating money from you, I guess.
Yeah, he lost his job and he made his own company, and then his old company sued his company, and he lost that lawsuit because he signed a non-compete when he was 27. And then they like took his house and all that stuff, and so like he wasn't allowed to work for 2 years doing the only thing he's ever known how to do. He put all his 401k, so he couldn't go to college and get another degree, and then he'd have to work his way back up to getting that salary he spent 30 years working towards, which is just kind of like a big mess. So they took money from my cards, but like we're past that. Like I'm over that with him now. It's kind of like he looks up to me, which is kind of strange. He likes hanging out with me, and I try to help him out. I thought about, I was like, Dad, we got to let's put my dad on Tender Stream just to see what would happen. He's like, no, I don't want to do that. I was like, I'm still married. I'm like, nah, I don't care. Let's do it anyways. Like, let's see what happens. Let's see what, you know, and he laughs about it, but I think I'm just kind of slowly, he's getting it.
Well, so it's interesting to see like who your dad really is after a while. Like when my dad got zeroed out when he was about 55, my father only ever did one thing throughout his life, and he was like an administrative director. Like he was an HR guy before women took over HR. And he was a vice president of a hospital for a very long time. And then once that was taken away from him, he lost all of his identity because his entire identity was wrapped up in his job. And exactly like what you're talking about, I'm wondering if that's like not kind of like an old school kind of thing, because I remember when my dad had his 50th birthday, and he had all these friends there, and he was on top of his game, and he's probably making more money than he'd ever made in his life. He was vice president of a big hospital at that time, and within 5 years, he was zeroed out. The company that owned the hospital sold out to another company. They fired all of middle management on up, and they replaced all those people with their own people. And my father did not have anywhere else to go after that. But like for pretty much all my life, I had always known him as that guy, as the guy who was like my dad, who was the administrative director. He was the vice president of the hospital, and he had wrapped up his identity in that job for so long that when he lost that, he lost a piece of himself. And I think that I never really even said that before, but I think that's a danger, I think, for a lot of guys, is when they are not versatile enough, when they can't turn on a dime, when they can't improvise, I guess. Because their competency is wrapped up in one thing, and they're what I call domain dependent. They're domain dependent on that one actual thing. I don't think that's certainly probably not going to be your case, because you can fluidly move from like whatever you were doing in college, as an engineer, and to doing what you're doing right now. And this probably won't be the last thing you do, with your life as well. So I think that's a really important lesson I think that guys need to know, is like, if you put your identity into one thing, when that one thing goes, you're done. And that's the same thing that happens when you have one-itis, when you are when you're wrapped up in the soulmate myth and you literally can't live without her. Did you ever? Maybe it was. I don't know. There's probably things were a little bit different for you, like when you were with her, and there was probably a point at which you said, "This is not going to work. This is like we're pretty much done." Was that kind of like depressing for you, because it felt like you had put so much effort into the relationship, and now you're kind of like, this is so bad that I can't deal with this anymore?
No, it was more of like a positive thing. It's more like I try to be pretty like humble, I guess, most of the time, and I'm willing to like look at myself and be like, "Yo, you were dumb," and like try to be better. So that's what I did. And so I was looking more at like the positive aspects of things. Like, look at it this way, Josh, you're going to get in shape. You're gonna be back on the game. You're not going to be tied down anymore. Cause the physical attraction, like I ballooned up, but it was like mutual, right? Like there's no physical attraction anymore. It's like, you get to be with these cute girls. You're going to make some money, like it was kind of like more of a positive. I tried not to look at the negative side of things. It was kind of exciting for me, but it was like, driving her nuts.
Like you had like you're too much of your own personality wrapped up in the whole thing. And like it probably seemed like I don't know, there was like more opportunity in leaving her than staying with her.
And I started to figure it out that she needed reasons to tell people so that she could break up with me. Like I would talk to my guy friends at class, and we would talk and be like, I think she's like coming up with reasons, man. Like I'm pretty sure I haven't done anything. There's nothing really that she can say to like get a divorce that won't make her, because if she has a reason, she can divorce right away. She doesn't have to wait 6 months. And I think that's what she was trying to do. She was trying to get me to do something that she could take to the police station and then just have to like immediately divorce rather than have to wait the 6 months out. So she kept trying to bait me into things. And I'm like, I picked up on that. I was just very like, I was like soft, like I was really, really soft. I like the concept of like putting my foot down and telling this person that I love no, like, oh my gosh, like, oh, what's she gonna do? Like, it's just like, that was a new concept to me. And then I did it once, and I was like, it wasn't that bad. And then I did it again and again. And like every time I kind of like second guess myself when I would say no, or when she would want to, she'd want to get it on. I'd be like, no. The first time was absolutely nuts. Second time was like, no, it's kind of funny to watch your reaction now. And then the third time was just, as I did it more often, I was like, okay, yeah, I understand what this is. Like, hold my own, maintain myself here.
Wow. Wow. Cool. Well, did you have any questions for me?
I probably have a lot of questions, but they're probably not like.
That's fine.
Okay. You've been married for like 20 plus years, right?
23. Mm-hmm.
How do you like, I guess this is like super difficult for you to like maintain, like
Mm-hmm.
the respect and like all that because you've been married so long. Do you ever like slip up?
Oh, you mean as far as like maintaining frame?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. That's a really good question, because you'll probably have to deal with that in the not too distant future here. A lot of guys will say, well, Rolo's relationship sounds like it's really great, but I would hate to have to game my wife all the time, or it sounds like an act I have to keep up all the time. And I always tell them, it's like, it's not an act. It's just like, I have internalized what I've written in my books, or just like coming to the conclusions I have with respect to relationships, with respect to dealing with women, whether it's my wife or my daughter or my mother-in-law or women I have to work with, whatever. I have like sort of this natural reflexive response that I guess people would call game, or they would call it, being red pill aware. And that would be the sort of the natural response of a guy who already knows like that part of himself. So when guys say, well, Rollo has to game his wife all the time, it's like, no, dude, I don't have to game my wife at all, because I am the game. My wife gives me a shit test or something. It's not like I go and I flip through my book, or I go through my notebooks and go, okay, I can do A, B, C, or D. It's like, no, my reflexive response, like my personality is now a result of what I've written, and just being in this, and just, really a collective result of everything that I've become over the years. And my wife responds to that. My wife is, here's the thing. It's like, I think a lot of people really, they say, well, you got lucky, right? Well, I got married in 1996, and I dated my wife for about a year, maybe a little over a year before we got married. And I was non-exclusive with her for a year. And, about maybe 6 months of that year, I was non-exclusive. I was dating other people. She was dating other people. And then at one point she came to me and she says, I want to be exclusive with you. I don't like the idea of you being with other women. And at that point, she was the hottest girl I was with at that time. So I said, okay, that's fine. And I don't know that I really consciously acknowledged it, but like that meant something, because it was her coming to me. And it wasn't me. Well, I wasn't the one who was necessitous in that situation, because I was on top of my game. I had come out of this BPD relationship. And when I met my wife, I had plans to go back to college. I had plans to actually move away from where I was at. I was finally doing kind of like what you're doing right now, which is I was putting myself first. I didn't really think of it in terms of like mental point of origin at that point, but if there was such a thing back then, that's when it was just sort of developing in my head. And I had to understand that every time I had put myself as my number one priority, that's when women came on to me. That's when women started wanting to be associated with me. And people say, well, you just have to be a selfish prick, or you just have to be a jerk about the whole thing. And I'm just like, no, it's not being a jerk. It's just, controlling the frame, owning the frame, and using it to your best advantage, but also recognizing that because you're putting yourself into that position, other people are going to be attracted to you. Like, are you familiar? Maybe you are. Are you familiar with the concept of enlightened self-interest? Because what that is I see your dogs back there. What that is it's that this is the idea is that I can't help other people, or I can't help other people as well as when I help myself first. And so that's kind of been where I have, ever since the point that I broke up with my own BPD girlfriend, that's where my turning point was. And I think one of the reasons why I started out with really strong frame with my wife and continue to this day is because I realized that I'm in a better position to help other people and help myself if I'm the one that I'm making the decisions for first. So when I met my wife, I told her from the get-go, I said, I am going back to school. I'm going because like I felt like I had a lot of things that I needed to make up for over the course of my 20s, and I wanted to sort of build myself up to where I felt like I should have been when I got into my early 30s. And so I told her, I said, I have a lot of work to do, and if you want to be a part of that, that's fine, but this is where I am going. I'm not going to have a relationship for you. This is where I'm going. And she was good with that. And so people will always say, well, you're just lucky, Rolo. You just found a girl who was traditional, or a girl who wanted a guy who was alpha. And yeah, in a way, but it was weird for me. And I think this is maybe some advice for you. I think that going forward, when you meet another chick, you're probably going to date, and I would suggest you date non-exclusively for quite some time. But when you are with, like, say, if you've read my books, then you know what I mean when I say spinning plates. When you're spinning plates, let's say you've got 3 or 4 girls going at the same time, with every one of those, you will succeed with every one of those plates so long as you make yourself the primary in that whatever passes for a relationship in your non-exclusivity. The trick is that not to overinvest in any one plate to the point where you are breaking that, for lack of a better word, breaking that covenant with yourself, right? You're breaking that, the idea that you are your mental point of origin, that you should be whenever you are faced with a decision, a big decision or a small decision, but generally the big decision is like, what do you want to do with your life? It's never about the woman that you're with. It's never about the family. It's never about your dogs, right? It's never about anything else. Like, the first thing that should come to your mind, that's why I call it mental point of origin, is yourself. And I think what we do, and we've been doing for the last like 2 or 3 generations with our boys, is we have taught them to be serviceable. We've taught them to be good servants. In fact, even especially in religious circles, I would presume you're probably part of like some evangelical thing, maybe, I don't know. But we teach those boys, like particularly in Christianity, that you need to be of service. You need to be live a life of service, right? You need to do for other, like the measure of your worth is how much you're worth to other people. Like, can you go do things for others? And so it's always this sort of good boy attitude, like I'm gonna do these things, and then somebody's gonna appreciate me for them. And that kind of permeates guys' lives for their upbringing, or their whatever, whether it's in their parents or it's the village or whatever that's raising that kid. You need to be sort of sensitive to women. You need to put women first. You need to put, and usually that passes from like maybe your mom or your sister to your girlfriend and then to your wife. And so it's always this life of service, as opposed to, how does this affect me? How do I make myself my number one priority in my life? It's not just thinking about yourself first. It's not just like, I'm going to make myself number one. That's not what I mean. It's actually changing your mind about yourself so that you are your first thought that comes into your brain whenever you're faced with a decision. So how do I apply that in my life right now? That's all I've ever done ever since I got out of my BPD girlfriend's house, right after I got out of that whole situation. And it has paid off ever since then. And yes, I was fortunate enough to meet a woman who expected me to be that guy, who expected me to make the decisions. My wife to this day still expects me to be the decision maker. Like, I have to be very decisive. If I vacillate on a decision, that's when I know I'm losing it. Like, I don't like talk about decisions that I'm going to make with my wife until I'm like fairly certain, like 80 to 90% certain of what I want to do. And then I go forward with that, because it's when I'm indecisive that's when the problems start. When it's there's a lot of things in life where you're not going to know exactly what you need to do, but when you voice those things, like one of the things I think is a really disservice that we do to young men today is we feed them this bullshit about, oh, it's all about open communication. You need to communicate with your wife. You need to communicate, as if just communicating is in some way going to solve that problem. To your credit, at least you knew that marriage counseling was bullshit, because that's exactly where you would have ended up in that. Is talking about your feelings and your fears and your vulnerabilities and stuff.
It was suggested. It was really, like, you should do that. My parents, I'm like, no, like this is not going to be anything but just me being the bad guy. And no matter what I do, we're going to be back here next week and I'm going to do something else wrong. And it's still going to be my fault. No matter, like, it's just, it's a joke. I'm not going to go here and just be talked down to for 2 hours about what I didn't do right, And so, like, I think what a lot of people, it was weird for me to put myself first. Like the very first time I did it, I got guilt tripped for it. They're like, you're so selfish. You're like narcissistic, like you'll get guilt tripped for doing it for you. Like but then you you actually can't help other people until you help you first. It's like in the chat. And like I say, it's like when you're in an airplane and the little oxygen mask comes down, the ladies are like, put it on your face first before you help other people. And it's just like the same way you have to live life.
Yeah,
otherwise,
because you die if you don't. You die and everybody else dies. So if you have the capability to help somebody, but something's cutting off your oxygen, you need to think about yourself first. And I think we do. I'm writing a book about religion right now in the red pill. I think we still to this day do a disservice to our young men by promoting this idea that they have to be like perfect little servants. And I think that because feminism and the feminine imperative has assimilated most mainstream religions right now, the feminine imperative has sort of used that and as leverage, I think, for like several generations of young men right now, and saying, well, you're not a man of God unless you do what I tell you to do. You're not a man of God unless you're serviceable and you have a utility to you. We still expect old school, old social contract responsibilities from men, but yet we only reserve new social contract benefits for women with none of the responsibilities. Like guys in and several different communities of the manosphere will say, right now we expect 100% responsibility from men and 0% authority is given to those guys. So it's all a downside proposition even before you get married. So, and I'm not suggesting you get married. I'm not suggesting you do anything except for spin plates and focus on yourself. That's why I asked you. I said, what do you have planned? Where are you going to go from here? At least you've got the benefit. Like you've learned a tough lesson. And God damn it, man. I was doing a counseling thing just yesterday with a guy who was in a very similar situation to you. He got married early, went through a really bad relationship with this person, finally split up with them. And now he's still thinking like, oh, maybe she really does want to get back together with me. Maybe things could work. I'm like, dude, there's no hope on that side, but there's lots of hope on the red pill aware side. And there's lots of opportunity over here. Your situation, well, I was attracted to your situation because it's so common. Like lots of guys have to go through that. I went through that myself. And the reason why I think it's tragic is because your most productive years, your 20s, if I could go back in time, if I have any regrets in life, it's losing those 4 years that I was with that woman. I was with her. Because I think to myself, what could I have done? Like what could I have built? Where would I be right now had I just had the balls in my sack to like say no, fuck it, I'm out. How would my life have changed? And like you, on the other hand, I mean, you spent what 5 years,
yeah,
somewhere like that. Like what could you have done in those 5 years of the prime of your life? Right?
I think about that a lot. I'm thinking like,
I do too, man.
We never did it. Maybe like 9 times. Like that's it. Like I'm like 22, hormones raging 9 times in like 4 years. I'm like, what could I
Wow.
And now I'm like 30 and it's like, it's not the same. Like hormones are different, but like, it's just like, what is going on? I'm like energetic. I'm like working out every day. Like I could have done so many things. And and I had plans to like do all those things there and like
Yep.
pamper her and like, you know, I don't know, man. It was not a good time. I would go back in time and slap myself
Yeah,
really hard.
yeah. I'll just put this really quickly here. Yeah, I get that. Because then you wouldn't be saving men right now. I know that. I had to go through that experience so that I could be useful to other guys. I didn't get to the point where I am right now, like with the books that I've written and the things that I do right now. I could not have done that had I not gone through those experiences. I understand that. So at least I'm making the most of it. But I think the same way as you, man. I'm like, God damn it, what if I could have just got out of that sooner? How would my life be different as a result of that? Now, you know, of course, maybe it was necessary to get to where I'm at right now. But I see so many guys repeat that same mistake, man. Like they'll you know, put everything into, like, people give me grief because I say, you know, when you're in your 20s, you need to stay single. You need to stay non-exclusive. Don't consider monogamy until you are at least 30 years old as a guy. Now, I'm not saying don't date. I'm not saying don't go and, you know, explore what's out there, be non-exclusive, spin plates right up until that point. But don't even consider monogamy until you have a better understanding of women's nature, a better understanding of yourself, and that you have the opportunities to maneuver, and you have the time to do it. And like you were saying, you know, you're 22 years old. Like, what could you have done? What could you have done with that? You know, and you could put, like, just you have right here. It's like you can put that in sexual terms. It's like, man, I could have had different girlfriends. I could have had different sexual experiences. But you could also have had different experiences with, like, where you went to school. Like, I'm sure if you didn't know this girl, Finland would not have been the first place that you would have wanted to go to school.
Right. Yeah,
So,
I know.
that's what I mean. Like, when I talk about this all the time with respect to what is it, relational equity. Like, guys think that if they put more into it, that they're going to get that much more appreciation out of it, and it never works.
It's like the inverse. Like, you put nothing, and then all of a sudden you get everything. It's like, what? And that's like really hard. Like what you were saying earlier is like my cousin that I'm watching right now. He's like, I don't know, maybe like 20, and he's like going to marry this first girl that he's ever had as like a relationship ever. And that's just like, I'm just watching this train wreck unfold, or like, it's not completely a train wreck yet because they're not married yet. But then like, I'm just, you know, I went and hung out with him and he brought his girlfriend and I was like, you want to go do this? And he's like, let me ask if I can do that, you know, like asking for permission. I'm like, you're not even married yet. What do you do? And like, you try to help, you know, like I can't articulate my thoughts as well as you in terms of this regard. Like, you wrote the books. So normally I try to say this and I'm like, just read the book, man, please don't do it. And then hard. He just, I can't, you know, we've been together for like a year and her dad really likes me. And I'm like, it doesn't matter. Don't do it.
It's scarcity mentality. And I think what's great about the position that you're in right now is you're making money. You're certainly in a better spot in your life right now. At least you can say, you know what you don't want. You don't want to deal with that crap anymore. You don't want to be in that situation. But more so, I think you have had a really tough life lesson with respect to frame. How, like, you just what you were saying right now, you see your friend asking permission, making his girlfriend the primary, probably because he's one of the 80% of guys who are in the, you know, the beta male category, where they have that scarcity mentality, where they feel like, if I don't ask permission, if I don't measure up, if I don't qualify myself to her, if I don't play in her frame, then I'm going to be zeroed out, or I'm going to have to go back to square one. Her parents really like me. I don't want to screw anything up. That kind of mentality, that scarcity mentality, it's pervasive in beta male.
It feels like cheat codes, really. Sometimes it feels like cheat codes. Like, once you understand how things work, you know, and it's like, no, and they're like, well, here's everything. No, like the more you say no, and instead you're just like, oh yes to everything. How can I help? It's about you today and forever, you know. And then like, you're like, no, I'm gonna do my thing, and they're like, but wait, what about this? And like, all these opportunities suddenly open up, and you're like, what is going on? It must be because everyone else says yes, so I'm different, and that's why.
Yeah. These guys are goofing on you. like Han Solo says, Josh, would you ask a woman in the street for sexy time if she had a nice chest?
I wouldn't phrase it that way.
I wouldn't
but
phrase it that way either.
what's the rest?
Well, that's a good segue here. Are you more, do you, like, how do you meet chicks right now? Do you go on Tinder, or do you like, I realize it's tougher in Utah, but like, what's your MO when you want to go out and
it's not good. It's not cold approach. It sometimes, very rarely, sometimes, but like I'm at home making videos, editing all day, you know, and I don't really drink. It makes me sick. So I can't really, I mean, I guess I could go out to like clubs and stuff, but it's not really like, I'm not going to buy you a drink because I don't even drink. And even then I'd still say no, you know? So it's like, it's mostly just like online, which is not good because it's even more tilted in the favor of women, you know, especially like Bumble, you know, like I have to wait for them to say yes, which is really weird, you know, like you get no choice.
Do you, so are you on Bumble? Is that how you're doing things right now? Okay, so you're on Bumble. Are you on Tinder? Or are you on anything like, are you in
I think it's like Hinge. Tinder doesn't work. Tinder's Hinge is weird. It's like they ask you questions and then you can see the person's response and then you can click on their response and engage with that. So you kind of have like something to go off of besides like hi. But most, I would say, success is between like Bumble or Hinge.
Do you get a certain kind of woman that like picks you? Have you been picked on Bumble, or you just sit around and wait? Or
I mean, that's all you can do. Like you can it's so silly. Like I'll see my friends and I'll like look at Bumble or Tinder and they're like, oh man, she's hot. Like swipe right. It's like, it doesn't matter, dude. Like you have to wait on her. Like just swipe on all of them and sort later. What are you doing? You know,
it's funny. In you know, you being in tech, of course, my good friend Carl, who also hasn't been around in a long time. He's the writer of Black Label Logic. He has a really great, actually both of his books. He's got two books called Gendernomics 1 and 2. And in, I think the first one, he talks about how there's an algorithm for like Bumble or for Tinder or whatever. So it's almost like a tournament ranking. So if you are, if a lot of girls like you and they all swipe right, they kind of move you up to a different like tier, I guess, within the software somehow. So if enough girls like you, then like they move you up to like an 8 so that you match with girls who are also rated like an 8. But if you're like, if you get no play whatsoever, it never pushes you up in the rankings so that like, if you're like, if women would like consider you like a 4 or a 5, you will never like meet the girls who are like 8s and 9s, because the algorithm will put you in a different class or a different category. And another way that guys kind of get shafted. But like, so that's your main way of meeting new people? Like, do you have friends? Do you have like real friends? Do you have like people that you like hang out with in real life? I mean, you say
no, I should. I don't really have a lot of friends that I hang out with. It's mostly me and my dad. But I don't have any like, I've been thinking about like getting into like certain sports, like action sports and stuff like that, or like going to get my pilot's license and like bonding over there. But I've just been so making like videos and just trying not to be homeless and make a living on YouTube, which is like I'm at this weird point where I have choice in my time now, which I'm gonna go do that. Like I have no issues walking up to girls and being like, hey, what's up? Like that doesn't bother me. It's just that I just don't go anywhere. So occasionally I'm just like swipe. But I mean, I get like decent matches, but it doesn't usually work out because they're usually from here and I'm not, and you know, like I'm not LDS, so it doesn't usually work. Will you find LDS on Bumble? Will you find they say it in the profile. It says not LDS or LDS.
Wow.
Yep.
I didn't realize that. So like, do you have any tribes though? Do you have like any other guys that you hang out with like at the gym, or do you have friends, or is it all like,
no, that's the mistake.
You're just sitting there and behind the screen.
Yep. That's the mistake. 100%. Like I should have a group of guys that I go chill with, but I've just been making videos basically like every day, make video, edit the video, upload the video, do other stuff for the business to where I can get to the point where I can go out and do things and I feel guilty about it. But then there's like the whole other mindset shift of like, okay, go live life a little bit, Josh. And so now I have some money to choose to do some activities. So I'll probably go like get a pilot's license or something like that. And there's there's like, that's pretty small click.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a mistake. I don't have like a group of guy friends that I go hang out with.
Yeah, you need. I was gonna say, like, if I can help you out in any way, my next suggestion to you is to like go and develop a new tribe. Like, go find some other, like, hang out in real life, because I think that what happens to your generation plus, like, in generation, I don't know if you'd be a millennial or not. I don't know if you're Gen Z. Are you considered Gen Z? I don't know. But like that, like people in their 20s right now, I think there's a real risk in sort of like socially isolating yourself, particularly with guys, because it's easy to sit behind a screen. It's easy to go on Bumble. It's like, but once you say, "Oh, I got a match, great. Where are we going to go? What are we going to do?" That's when it all falls apart, because you don't know, what you can't make the reads that you need to make because you don't have that experience. And I don't know, maybe it's not the case with you, but it seems like we're looking at a generation of guys right now who've been living behind what I call buffers, right? It's texting, it's behind this, like the monitor right here in front of me. This is a buffer, right? I would probably, like, I can see your face, I can hear your voice and all that. That's one thing. But if I'm just typing little things to you on the screen, that's not teaching you anything with respect to like interpersonal communication. So something to consider. But I would also say this is it's not just a how many plates can you get working right now, but it's also like dealing with other guys, right? Like having that tribe, having dudes to hang out with, having people to talk to, in real time, as opposed to like playing video games or being online. Like right now, you probably, because of what you do, like, what would you say your audience is right now? Because you're like about what, 175,000 subs right now, and like, what would you say primarily your audience is? Is it tech?
It's mostly tech. Some people watch for like stories about my life, but it's probably, I started off as like how to get code jobs and stuff, like how to learn code and why you should learn it. And then so I have some software people, and then I have some people that watch for just whatever I make, just people will just show up no matter what, just because I guess they like me for me. And sometimes they'll show up for like the stories, like the introspective, because I try to be pretty introspective about what I do, and I'll make videos about like what I've learned in business and what, like spending money and stuff like that. So they'll show up for that. It's kind of a weird channel. That's why it's just my name and not like Code with Josh or anything like that.
I found that kind of interesting, because like when I was doing that breakdown of Tech Lead, like I was looking at some of his other videos, and I'm like, man, this guy's really popular. And like basically I was talking about is like how to get a job, or like he's just basically opining about certain things, I guess, in tech or whatever. And in some sense, I think you're probably in the same vein as him. That's actually how I found you. But like, as far as your demographic is concerned, do you think like it's mostly like young guys?
Oh, it is. Yeah, I can see the demographics. It's mostly between 18 and 35, like 95%. Yeah.
And I got to ask you this, like when you were going through your divorce and all that stuff, and you came across my book, like, did somebody suggest it to you? How did you like come across my work?
Okay. All right. I found it. I was reading Reddit. Someone linked to the subreddit, and they're like, this is a terrible place. It was blah, blah, blah. Like everyone here is terrible and mean. And I was just like, oh, let me check this out. And I started reading it, and I was like, this is me. This is what I'm dealing with. And then you see like Rolo in the comments, Rolo, this, that. And then it's like the book, it's in the sidebar, go check it out. I was like, okay, let me click that. That's how I found it. Because I was just reading. That's what it was. It was, I was reading like r/like relationship advice, I think it was. And then I would go from there to like dead bedrooms, which is the most depressing subreddit you could ever read, ever. And then some guy would be like, you guys need to read this, and then everyone would be like, no, don't listen to this guy. And then I clicked on it to see what it was.
Did you have a hard time, like when you first started reading it? Was it like, were you resistant to it at first, or did it just automatically click for you?
There was like some hard truths, I guess. Like there's a few users, like common users in the subreddit that you see, and then once you just like internalize that, I don't know, you go through the phases, just like they talk about. You go through the phases. I went through the phases, and then I was just like, okay, this is what it is. Now you got to deal with it.
Yeah. Wow. So we're coming up on fifth. I usually take care of housekeeping right around this time right here. So guys, if you haven't hit the subscription button, please do. If you haven't hit the like button, please do. Also, make sure you guys go and check out Josh's channel as well. I put his, actually the link to your divorce video is in the description right now, but you have a lot of other great videos as well that I actually can kind of get behind as well. But so I do check out Josh's work. I highly recommend his stuff, and it seems to me like you at least you have an education right now. At least I think you have an idea of where it is that you want to go from here. As far as like frame is concerned, and like when you bring in another, when you finally get to a point where maybe you want to like maybe become monogamous, have you ever like given any thought to like, are you ever going to get married again, or
Yeah,
are you ever
I've
gonna
given
have a
that thought, and
relationship?
okay, so after like the girlfriend, no, never again. No one's ever living here again. Not gonna get married. It sounds like douchey, right? But like because of my status, I guess of what I am, it's really hard to tell if people are genuine or not. Especially really hard to tell if people are genuine or not, because do they want the reputation? Do they want the money? Like what do they want?
You've had some girls like come up to you like because they want to get with you because you have an audience and they want bigger reach. Is that how it is?
Yeah, they'll ask if they can be in my Instagram like live stories or whatever, or if they can be on the stream, or if can I be in your video or whatever. No, you can't. No, sorry. And then it just like makes them laugh. You're such a jerk, and then they laugh, you know? Okay, great. But it's just I'm not gonna get married again. Probably not gonna be exclusive, you know.
What do you think like the worst part of dealing with like this generation of women is like? What do you like if you could give women like some sort of advice? Is like women all the time will say like, oh well, you need to do this to get with me, you need to do that I just my last essay was an essay that I wrote for women, like about like here's what you can do. Like what if you could give them some advice, what would you give them advice?
This is really tricky. How do I
because you're dealing with this, you're dealing with women online, you're dealing with the Instagram, Snapchat set of girls. Obviously I want to get on your channel here, but like what would you
I don't know, like I don't know if the advice would mean anything, you know, like
probably
honest.
not, but like
be honest, is that gonna work? Like probably that's a tough one. It's like how to walk the line of YouTube right now is what I'm thinking about, like actually in my head, to where someone doesn't clip this for later, you know, for out of like, context.
What would you say? Yeah. Well, the reason I asked that is because in that essay that I did, there's the guys who are sort of in my social circle, my sphere of the internet, I guess, who will occasionally put out some kind of like list. They'll say, if you want to be a quality woman, whatever, if you want to attract a guy or you want to keep a guy, you have to do these 6 things, right? And just by stating that, just by saying, oh, here's some ideas, right? Here's some suggestions, lady. That will, and you're right, you'll get flagged for stuff like that. You will, one of the, was it Rich? I think it was Rich. I mean, the guy made the 6 o'clock news because some guy somewhere online dared to give women a list of prerequisites and things that they could do. But I think that it's necessary, particularly for your generation. Like, it's like, how are you going to, first of all, I think guys should have some sort of prerequisites for women. Like, if you're going to have a relationship with them, like what should those things be? Well, clearly you don't want what you had with your ex-wife, but like if you're going to start something, like what would be at the, okay, let's just say what would be at the top of that list?
Okay, so I mean, I have like a set of standards for like before I'm gonna like date stuff. Just so they need to have something going for them. They can't be like, I want to open up this business one day and then go party all weekend and then go back to their $10 an hour, bank teller job and just complain about never having any money because they spent it partying all weekend. And then they do that, right? They do that until they find somebody, and then, like they have to have some ambition and they have to be working towards something. That's nice to see, instead of just talking about it. like physical. Obviously, like you need to be, in shape. That's just like, that's non-negotiable really. But everyone has preferences there as to what they like, but that's probably one. Introspective, probably, which is like be able to.
There you go.
Like realize what, be able to take a step back and be like, wait, what was I doing? Or
that's funny you should say that. That was like one of the first things I said in that essay is like I am of the opinion that men and women are better together than we are apart. I believe that we evolved to be complements to one another. But the way things work right now, the way we have sort of structured our social order, whether it's through feminism or it's through, the feminine imperative, everything that's happened since the sexual revolution, we are becoming more and more segregated right now. And I think one of the key issues for women at this stage is hubris. They will never, like, I'm glad you said introspection, because that is, I think, one of the number one things that women lack today is really taking a critical look at themselves, or even having the notion to take a critical look at themselves and to say, hey, I could be better at this way, or maybe I should really come back down to earth. Like bringing women back down to earth with respect to like their social media and having their egos kind of overblown in the communication age, I guess, I think that's the number one issue women need to face, is to sort of like put a curb on that hubris right now.
It's hard. It's how do you say that? Like you're too prideful or something? Like, can you just take a second and realize what you're doing? Take some accountability, please. Like, just be aware of what your actions here.
A lot of guys will say, like, I've done shows about this. A lot of guys will say that women don't have agency. Like they don't have any, like they're just sort of on autopilot. And it's really the guys will argue with me all the time. They'll say women are the way they are because men allow them to be what they are right now. And if men would just put their foot down, right? If men would just like sort of control the frame, then women would follow along. And I only agree with that up to a point, because I still think that women do have agency, and I think that they do bear some responsibility, and they do need to, like you said, need to have some introspect.
It's hard to make like huge sweeping statements, like, because there's always going to be like some exception. A lot of people like to make a lot of sweeping statements in this area of what we're talking about. And some people get upset, and some people are like, no, that's 100% facts. And it's just like, I'm just going to tell it from my point of view of what I think, like it's really difficult. You can't say like absolute 100%. This one thing for everyone is fact when it's, that's just, I would say it probably.
Do you think that women today, like in your demographic, in your situation, do you think women today are more like transactional? I hear a lot of guys like in your age range who will not complain, but they will say that like women are just too much about the exchange. Like that's why you get sugaring. That's why you get like sugar daddies and sugar. And that's why that's a thing right now. It's almost like soft prostitution. And so that sort of cuts out guys like you. Like if you honestly want to have a real connection with a woman, with a person, whatever you need, having that is very, very difficult for them, because it's not based on an exchange as it is so much as it is like we want to come together as like two people, right?
Right. It's very.
Do you see the exchange? Do you see like women? Because the first thing you said was women need to be more introspective, or they need to be more insightful, I guess. What do you think is preventing that?
I think a lot of just expectations of what you're supposed to do, like find a good guy that makes a lot of money, like you talk to girls and their friend circles and like, what's he do? Oh, he makes a lot of money. It's like the first description that you hear, like not actually what he does. Oh, he just makes a lot of money. Like, oh, that's what he does. Okay. So at least the ones I've talked to, it's pretty obvious. Like, okay, you're expecting something out of this, whatever it is, what it is, but it's not going to last,
Do you think you're going to have to leave the country?
What do you mean?
A lot of guys will say, well, you just leave the country. It's because you're in the Western society and you need to go like to Southeast Asia to find a real feminine woman.
No, I don't think so. I think maybe I just haven't met them, but there's probably like, you're not going to find them on Instagram because they wouldn't be the type of girl to be there. So it's difficult to say.
True. True, true. All right, man. We're coming up on 5 o'clock here. I want to thank you again for being a part of this. Is there anything else you wanted to ask me real quick? Or I mean,
It'll probably happen as soon as we end the call. So
yeah, I know.
that's how
Right,
it goes.
right. Well, so here's the thing. Let me just put this on the table for you. If you ever have any questions, if you ever want to talk to me, if you want me to come on your stream, that's fine. If you're reading the book and you want to ask me something about it, or if you're going through something, don't be a stranger, man. I know, like when I was first talking to you, you were like, "Oh man, I can't believe Roland just called me. Oh my God." I'm interested in I have a lot of guys that I counsel, and they range anywhere from like 17 or 18 years old all the way up to like 70 years old. So I'm like interested in like what you're going through. So that helps me be a better like writer and a better counselor as well. So if there's anything that I can do for you, just let me know.
Will do. Yeah.
All
I
right,
mean,
man.
same here. I don't know what I can, maybe YouTube stuff if you want. But
Yeah, exactly. This is sort of your demographic is a little bit different than mine, as you might guess.
But the age is what you would target. Like a lot of software people are me. Like they are what I was, like they're going through that. And so it's like
they're going through it right now. Yeah.
It's hard you can't really talk about it. It's because it's YouTube,
Do you think, maybe I should ask you that. I probably should ask you this before, is like guys who are following you, do you think they're more resistant to this, or do you think they're more open to my work or the red pill, or like understanding intersectional dynamics?
Like publicly or not publicly?
Because not publicly, like for real, like how
in the comments. Yeah, I mean, from what I get, the same chat that's here is usually kind of where I'm at. I just can't engage with that because of what I do. So that's all. But I think they're probably, I'd say it's probably like 50-50. It's probably pretty open to it. They just might be unsure of like why this is happening, why this is like, this doesn't go like this, like something's a little off. And so I think you could have some opportunity there.
Yeah. So if you get booted off of YouTube, where are you going to go? Do you live?
I mean, I have like the website and like products and stuff, and I would probably just run Facebook ads and Instagram ads and stuff like that to sell those instead, because like I don't solely live off of YouTube. That would be nuts. Like I have some sources of like passive income, not like real estate or anything like that, but I mean, I have like backup plans. I'm constantly thinking of what I would do. I'd probably like teach or something. I used to teach code for like 2 years. I would probably teach people how to build a brand, a YouTube or something like that. I have other skills that I think about what I could leverage if YouTube decides to just pull the plug one day, which is, pretty unlikely. I should write a book like you. Like you're just getting all passive income. Like go buy his book, give him some more, Yeah.
Right on. All right, Josh, this has been fun. I will definitely want to have you back at some point. I'd love to sort of pick your brain a little bit later on. So,
sure.
All right, guys, this has been real fun. We're at the 2-hour mark right now. If you haven't hit the like button, please do. I will be on Pat Campbell's show Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern. Look on my Twitter feed for that. Josh, is there anything you want to plug?
This is enough.
I already put your links are in the description. If you want to follow Josh, please do.
I say a lot, like I wouldn't be here today if I didn't read the books, right? But like I never thought I would be here, like here, which is nutty, like it's crazy.
That's great. Well, I've enjoyed this. So, all right, guys, I will also Rule 0. I'm not hosting, but I think it's going to be Rich this time. It's Rich's turn. So Rich Cooper's channel on Saturday morning, 11:30 a.m. Eastern time. And then Sunday, I will be back on with Pat Campbell on my show, on this show right here for the Rational Male 101. Great. Thanks a lot, Josh. Cool. I appreciate it. All right, man.
Thanks. See ya.